As we move forward, we shift from technology and the future to the powerful medium of cinema, a space where stories, identities, and lived experiences come alive through a deeply personal lens. Our next session, titled The Hyderabad Connection, Kukunoor's Lens, celebrates a filmmaker whose work has consistently redefined independent storytelling in India. We are honored to welcome Nagesh Kukunoor, one of India's most influential independent filmmakers. Trained as a chemical engineer, he left behind a successful career as an environmental consultant in Atlanta to pursue filmmaking, using his personal savings to write, produce, direct, and act in his debut film, Hyderabad Blues. The film went on to become a landmark success and is widely credited with sparking India's independent cinema movement. Since then, he has built an extraordinary body of work directing 16 films across diverse genres. A recipient of 2 National Film Awards for Iqbal and Dhanak, he also received international acclaim when Dhanak won the Grand Prix at the Berlinale in 2015. In recent years, he has emerged as a significant creator in the OTT space, having created and directed acclaimed series such as City of Dreams, Seasons 1 to 3, Modern Love Hyderabad, The Hunt, the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, and Mrs. Deshpande, continuing to bridge independent storytelling with contemporary digital audiences. In conversation with him is Aparna Kanda, a social development leader and cultural ambassador whose work connects education, policy, and cultural exchange. She holds an LLM in human rights law from the University of Hong Kong and leads the Varati Foundation, which is also one of our sponsors, an initiative dedicated to empowering future generations through education and cross-cultural collaboration in partnership with government institutions. Aparna has also worked with organizations including UNDP India, the Overseas Development Institute in London, and the University of Hong Kong. She is also the founder of Little Indians in Hong Kong and RAGA by Varati in Hyderabad. Both initiatives committed to celebrating and sustaining India's cultural heritage. Please join me in welcoming Nagesh Kukunoor and Aparna Kanda to the stage.
Thank you, Harnaman. I was wondering whether I'll have anything left to say after his introduction. May I ask everyone to please come back into the audience and settle down, especially the kids from Sherwood. I can say with confidence, if you have questions today, nobody's going to reprimand you. Come back. All right. So, Nagesh Kukunoor, truly a fabulous and refreshingly courageous filmmaker, storyteller whose craft goes beyond the formula, choosing truth over template and realism over spectacle. He has never been afraid to walk his own path, and I suspect he quite enjoys being different, not being mainstream in the way we understand Bollywood. With national, international awards, as mentioned, for various films and OTT as well. I'm so excited today to be here with Nagesh at our very inclusive literature festival that has a global outlook. But pardon me as I allow myself a moment of regional pride. As I as I introduce Nagesh as the original meat-eating Naidu from his first film, The Hyderabad Blues. So thank you, Nagesh, for coming here today. And critics often describe your work as character-driven and deeply empathetic. So what I want to ask you is, when you begin writing a story, do you start with the character or with the situation they're placed in?
That was actually a question about the actual craft of writing for the screen. Usually when we do a lot of press, people are more interested in how is it working with Madhuri Dixit? How? That's the depth of the questions that one is usually asked. I have a rough idea of the beginning and I have a feel for where I think I'm going to finish the film. This is pretty much what I have in mind when I set out to write something. Um, I don't write outlines for myself. Sometimes I'll jot a scene that pops in my head or not, but invariably it's a process of discovery. So a lot of the times I really don't know what the character is like, what the character is going to do or say, and I build as I go along.
And does that happen while you're actually filming as well?
No. By
It's
the
only
ti-
when you're writing.
Yeah, yeah. All the legwork. You know, a lot of people think of us directors as the ones who get on set and some kind of divine inspiration happens and then you just nail the scene. It's all the writers who do the hard work, and no BS about that. And the irony is, I'm introduced every time as a director, largely. Uh, no one ever mentions the writing part, and I actually take a lot of pride in the writing part because that's where everything happens. And and it is the truth. It's not because I happen to be at a lit fest and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's suck up to the writers. Because everything that you put down on paper, what the characters, what the stories, what the plot arcs, everything happens there. I'm not someone who goes on set to try and magic does happen on the set, stuff that you don't plan for, but the entire foundation is laid at the writing stage. So when I go on set, I pretty much know exactly how things are going to play out. And then there are, of course, twists that happen that make the process so much more exciting.
However, I'd like to say that anyone who watches your films will not be left with any doubt that you have written, because I think that takes pride of place in the credits.
Try to. Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes,
try to.
along with whoever else has written it with you.
That's
I've
right.
seen that. Your films frequently trust quiet moments and small gestures rather than dramatic emotional peaks. So, how do you decide what to leave unsaid in a scene?
See, filmmaking is so much about a personal journey. It is arguably the most selfish dictator kind of environment. I know a lot of directors, and I do too. I couldn't have done it without my team, 100%. But it's a purely selfish process. Everything that happens, there's some sense of right and wrong that I have in my head, and there's absolutely no one to tell me otherwise. So you go with what feels right. And I'm telling you, 6 years from now, I can look at stuff and say, oh, that was crap. I should have done it this way. So the process is so much about what you feel in the moment, and our moment, of course, takes about a year and a half from the genesis, the writing, and then putting the whole film together. But it's pretty much the way you feel at that point. So in terms of these long pauses, silences, at that moment, that's what I feel will get the story told right. And I have this weird quirk. Once I make a film, I never go back and watch it.
Seriously?
Never go back and watch my films because I can only see the mistakes. I'm like, I should have made that person act better. I should have done that differently. The lighting is crap. It's a process of just critiquing myself
Being
continually.
self-critical.
Yeah, and which is why I completely don't read a single review of anything that critics write. So when you begin with, critics have often said character driven. I'm like,
I don't know that.
I always invite critics to actually make a film before they start critiquing a film. So, because it's so easy to sit in your nice, cushy seat and talk about editing when you've never actually sat in a room and gotten the in point and the out point and why you should knock off 6 frames to make it better. And But people, I mean, Gyan is free, so everyone distributes it.
No, but again, coming back to, not just your quiet moments and small gestures, which probably, and not leaving things unsaid. Is that also just stemming from the way you are as a person? Is that how you are? Because most of your films have this, and it's recurring, and it is things that we all notice and feel good about, obviously, and those moments actually become very emotional, and they connect really well with the audiences. But does that come from the kind of person you are? Are you like that even in?
I think I throw a lot of myself into the writing. So maybe at that stage, a lot of stuff as to what a character might say, as to what a character is supposed to feel in the moment. Those things, I'm sure, are some form of an extension of myself. I'm clearly not that filmmaker who makes stuff that you don't really believe in.
Very clearly so.
Because
we
I
can
mean,
see that.
I always admire those filmmakers who make stuff, and when you actually have a conversation with them on the side, they're like, "हाँ, वो तो करना पड़ता है." And I don't get that, because to do something which you don't believe in for such a long period of time, man, that takes some kind of a split personality in your head. Because when I'm writing stuff, when I'm on set and when I'm saying, I'll give you an example. So in Iqbal, there's a pivotal scene in which the mother and son go for this training camp kind of thing
Yes,
without the father's knowledge. And so when they come back, he asks them where they went, and when he finds out, so in the script, at some stage you're sitting there in a you're writing and the father gets really angry. And whap, he slaps her. That's what I'd written.
Yeah.
Now I'm actually on set. I'm actually there, and the scene's playing itself out. And I'm going, Yatin Karyekar, the actor who plays the dad, he's saying, "Okay, sir, at this stage, so I slap Pratiksha." And I'm thinking, would I ever do that in real life? Would I ever allow anyone to do that in real life, to slap a woman? The answer is no.
Absolutely.
So I removed the slap from the film. So it's that kind of
Honesty.
process that, at least honest to myself, it might, I'm not judging the world in a larger space. I just need to know that what I write and what I put on film, that when I kind of look at it, I don't have to tell myself that I sold out. So, it's just that kind of personal thing that I subject myself to.
And obviously that gives you more satisfaction.
It does.
Clearly it gives you happiness, because all your
Because-
films are like that.
Yeah, because then I don't have to be someone else who's different when I'm in a public space defending what I did. When my films work, I say thank you. When my films don't work, and many of them have not worked. And when I say don't work, whether people liked it or not, it didn't do well at the box office, right? All I can say is, I'm sorry you didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I stand by everything I've put on screen. I'm not going to give these weak excuses like, I wish I had more money, or I could have done things better, I was under a lot of pressure, whatever nonsense. So, yeah.
Well, to start off with your first film, I don't think people were actors in that even. I mean, you had just picked up people who would
Yeah.
be in your film. I don't think they'd done dialogue delivery and, training.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. But it was refreshingly amazing. And it was a hit. I mean, we all loved it, and we've seen it so many times. So I think that honesty in your craft, stemming from your emotions, also makes perfect sense to the audience.
Before I made Hyderabad Blues, literally till I finished the first copy, as they say, in the film business, I was a chemical engineer. The day I said, okay, I'm done, this is it, I was a filmmaker. So the chemical engineer just kind of went around saying, oh, maybe this feels right, I don't know, maybe I should.
Especially if you were from Georgia Tech.
So at that moment, it's like, it kind of feels right, but you don't know what you're. because you don't have a point of reference, right? You just,
Yeah.
to use a cliche, you're just writing on a blank page or whatever you want to say. So at that stage, I went by my instincts just to say that, okay, if you guys were speaking normally, how would you speak? To,
Correct.
to come back to what you just said. No, 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 forget the acting part, forget that. If you just were to speak normally, how would you speak? I'd say it like this. Okay, say it like that. And that's how I kept, improvising for those 17 ridiculous days. So,
Is that all it took?
yeah, that's what it took to shoot Hyderabad Blues. Yeah.
Man.
That's all the money I had. So it was either complete it in those 17 days or stop filmmaking.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that, that honesty again is something that obviously attracted people to your films. So, and it takes a lot of courage. Since you don't listen to what critics say, I just thought I should mention it to you. I feel that takes a lot of courage to do what you do.
It's kind of you to say what you're saying, but it's a purely selfish enterprise for me.
Well,
I mean, I look at the people, I know close friends of mine who are NGO workers. That takes courage. This is just a nice, selfish journey
Thank you.
of a guy sitting in a nice flat in Bombay, having a good life, trying to tell stories.
That's just you being you,
No,
Nagesh. That's
and this is not false modesty. If you think about it in the larger
no, it
picture,
isn't. Yeah, I don't think it's false.
Who asked me to do this? I'm not trying to better society. I'm doing it because I love cinema. I mean, I love cinema from every pore. So everything that I do, I write, I do it all the time because I just love it. It's a completely selfish enterprise. Why do I not listen to critics? It's very simple. One, most of them don't know what they're saying. Two, why would I mean, just think about this. So many writers here, and it's like you walk up to someone, they're standing there quietly with their kid, and you say, damn, that's one ugly looking kid. And I want anyone to tell me which parent will say, yeah, you're right. I never thought about it. Okay, are we in the business where we're going to be judged? 100%. When I put a film out there, it's for the public to rip apart. Hey, do your job, do what you want. I don't have to listen to it, right? So I always tell people, when you meet someone whose work you like, please tell them.
Yeah.
Because they put their heart and soul.
Absolutely.
Every filmmaker, speaking only of my profession, you don't like it, keep it to yourself. It's the same way we compliment, like I gave the example, kids with parents and stuff like that. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So don't suddenly say that I should be, you should, what's the common thing? You should take positive criticism. I don't know how those two words can go together. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Great. All right. So let's move on to some of the things that we keep seeing in your films, right? Recurring sibling bonds, right? I know you have a lot of adopted sisters all across the globe. So sibling relationships appear as powerful emotional anchors in your films. For instance, in Iqbal, in Dhanak. Very heartwarming, right? And the audience establishes this connect with the brother and sister. And to me, as well as for so many other people, I mean, as a parent, I would show those films again and again to my kids, and I wouldn't sermonize, but I'd let them reflect, because it's something that creates like a positive inspiration to be a good sibling. You know, it's just so lovely. So tell us more about using siblings as a way of exploring support systems outside traditional hero narratives as a storytelling device.
To be perfectly honest, I never consciously thought about it. Till, like I said, I don't exactly have a plan when I set out to write stuff. So the first time that the sibling space shows up is in Iqbal, like you just mentioned. And I think, like I do most of my storytelling, it comes from no defined space. It comes from a lot of stuff that I've borrowed from life, from people, from. So there is no conscious choice. So if you draw the parallel between those two films, I'll say, yeah, that's right. So maybe I'm like, oh, I never thought about it. Maybe I have a really good relationship with my siblings. Never actually, because we've had a great relationship, so there's not been a conscious analysis of what it takes to have good siblings. But I've never consciously thought about, okay, this is what I need to do. Dhanak, the germ of the idea, was actually given by someone else. Just that one line, saying this brother and sister, the sister wants to get the brother's eyes back. That's all. That was like the line that I was like, oh, this would make, and then I started writing. So it's like that. So I never consciously thought that siblings do. But what I find that it's a great writer's tool is they can be like a best friend can. They can be that voice that at those critical moments of self-doubt can be that anchor, that voice. So it's a really good writer's device to just fall back on that.
And I can't help but notice that, because I've seen you outside, that you do have those kind of relationships. So, to me, it just seemed natural. Oh, okay, so Nagesh is like this as a person, and hence it shows in his films. But it was just actually craft that you thought of as a device.
Yeah, because once you start writing, you're like, even though I don't know if at one point I said, if Iqbal had a sister called Khadija, then I'm sure I could, get. I don't know if I consciously thought of it, but I know that once I started writing, I'm like, oh, this is a good writing device. Right. So I don't know which came, you know.
And the siblings have always been those that'll do anything, go out of their way to support, the other one, which is fabulous. The other theme that, I always see in your films, and a lot of them, is, on how you bring about, not, very organically, I should say, gender and women's agency. So I see right from, Hyderabad Blues, where you're, unabashedly talking about certain things in our society and culture, which are very jarring, right from when the lady becomes a widow to all those things that follow after. So many of your films center women navigating difficult social circumstances, such as in Dor, Lakshmi. What draws you to these stories about women, again, negotiating with unfairly restrictive systems?
So it's funny, now in 2026, right? The answer that I'm about to give has lost a lot of its punch. Because thanks to the OTT space, the stories about women told by women are fabulous. I mean, there are so many stories that have actually explored it in depth. But let's talk pre-OTT. So when I started making films, again, Hyderabad Blues just comes out. And then I realized, oh, okay, so I feel that way about women. So, oh, Ashwini is a strong, independent woman, great, da-da-da. And then I realized that almost all the stories being told at that point, and I didn't do an analysis, but I would not be wrong if I said that 90% of the stories were all male-dominated, male-centric, women just reduced to the, especially commercial cinema, just reduced to the side. Absolutely. And if you wanted to tell a story with women as the lead, Door that you picked, I was pitching it, I was trying to convince people, and the first response from them would be, oh, women's film. That was every producer, oh, women's film, oh, women's film. I'd get that all the time. It was a category unto itself. So at that point, I would always say that, the tales told about men, by men, there are so many. I'm going to explore this nice little space, pristine, untouched by most of the males. Some of the women were trying to tell those stories, but no one was giving them money back then. Um, I'm like, it's a vast, unexplored space. So why don't I write films with women as the hero? And all of a sudden, you take a robbery, and all of a sudden the lead is a woman. Doesn't it change everything? I mean, just in that one line, have I not changed everything? You're like, oh, really? Oh, why did she do it? And what's about that? That's what. Yeah. So I was like, it was just an extremely, I mean, it's the way I truly believe. Again, like I said, every word out of the woman's mouth is what I believe. But it was this large, unexplored reservoir to sort of
Yeah, but you really appealed to the women.
smart man.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel, your female characters often aspire to remedy violations, since I'm a human rights lawyer, to their human rights quietly rather than through dramatic rebellion, right? Now, is that an intentional choice?
100%. My biggest complaint when commercial cinema, I'm just picking on commercial cinema. You know, the great filmmakers like Shyam Benegal and all, they've dealt with women protagonists so beautifully, right? So it's not like I came along and tried to change something that didn't exist. Um, the commercial cinema, I remember way before I became a filmmaker, before I even got into the space, it just bugged the crap out of me. Because if a woman had to be strong, she had to be shrill. She had to scream and, fight for justice. And, even the poster, Mother India, right? And it wasn't until much later when I became a filmmaker that I was like, it used to bother me from when I was back then. Because it is true that the inequality was crazy between the genders, but I didn't feel that way. So I always felt that it was like some degree of condescension to have like I'm going to show a strong woman, as opposed to something being organic, something being inherent. And strength doesn't just come from, shouting from the rooftops, right? It can come in, I mean, the strongest woman in Iqbal was the mother. Didn't have to yell, didn't have to scream, just there. Made sure that her son succeeded.
And I love the way she tricked her husband
Yep.
all the time. Yeah, that's okay. He can feel what he wants, but I will quietly do what I have to do.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, pretty much like my own mother. Yeah. Um, how about your underdogs again? This is something which I love personally about your films. Many of your protagonists are outsiders, underdogs. From Iqbal. To the prisoners in Teen Diware, right? So what draws you to these characters who begin from the margins?
I think, again, almost 10 years into the business of making films, someone asked me about this, and that was the first time I thought about it. And I was like, if you ask me what my favorite genre of film across all the genres that exist, it's the underdog sports film. And and for me, that encapsulates everything that I want to feel about life. Uh, the fact that even the most marginalized person can rise to the top, and sports is the closest celebration we have for those kind of insane peaks that we feel as human beings. Uh, um, I'm not a father, so I was told that apparently when you have children, you feel that. Sorry to all the parents out there. I have no idea what that feeling is. But I do remember when a goal was scored and we won on the field, the kind of insanity. I do remember 1983 when India won the World Cup. In the middle of the night, I ran out into the street screaming. In the same street that my parents live in, and I didn't even know why I was doing that, but I had to let it, that sports does that. So it's my favorite genre. And I think at some degree, I identify I don't have any of those marginalized issues, let me tell you. But I think at the core, I identify very much as an underdog.
No, and it really it shows your empathy for sure. But you know, even as a storytelling device, really, it's the kind of stories that resonate with audiences personally. I don't know why more filmmakers don't do that often enough, because it's always mainstream, the kind of movies that usually become big hits in India. But these are the films that, I would watch happily with my kids. And, I would be very happy to sort of see again and again, because they very subtly sort of make you reflect upon certain things in life which actually matter. So thank you for doing that. Now, just quickly moving on to your OTT. So, looking at the characters again and say The Hunt, I couldn't help but marvel, I'm sure like the rest of the world did, about how smooth and sophisticated your craft was. It was so well thought out. The characters were so real. I don't know how you worked with all of them. But it was more like a docudrama setting. And there was a certain humaneness in the way you brought to life even the LTT. Even their characters were very sensitively dealt with. How different was adapting from a book for you? And what was your experience in making The Hunt?
It was arguably the most difficult thing that I did almost in my entire career. And it stems from a number of things that I hadn't done before. One is adapt a book, because right, for Dhanak. Yeah, yeah. So, but you want to do right by the writer, but at the same time, as a filmmaker, you want to take your leaps of faith and you want to tell the story differently in parts. So the writing was very, very challenging. I had two other writers with me on that, Rohit Banavlikar and Sriram Rajan. So they shouldered a huge chunk of the responsibility as well. But especially with real fiction, if you want to call it that, there are too many gaps to fill. And you're dealing with real people, so you want to do right by them, you don't want to. So navigating all that, I mean, many people have done it, so it's very difficult. But coming to set, if I thought that the writing was difficult, the directing was most brutal. So you hear this often when you talk about filmmaking. I hear so many filmmakers say, filmmaking is a visual medium. It just sounds so wonderfully lofty. I think we abandoned that it's a visual medium a good 80, 90 years ago. It's an audio-visual medium, and make no mistake. Like Vipin Bhati, my sound designer, always says, sir, you give bad sound and switch off the sound in a movie theater and see what the audience does. They'll throw bricks at the screen. At the same time, you have really crappy imagery, but the sound is solid. People will still watch it. So I am someone who pays a lot of attention to the audio part, meaning the lines, what it's doing within the overall space. So here comes the problem. I lived in Tamil Nadu for a very long time. I went to boarding school there. So I had this kind of arrogance that, I know Tamil. It's the kind of stupidity that I'll never commit again. Because film is a visual medium, somehow filmmakers think that, oh, I'm going to direct a film in, let's say, I'll direct a film in Marathi, without knowing Marathi, right? And when I say knowing, because grabbing at a few phrases here and there and actually being on set, directing actors and understanding the nuances of the language are two completely different things. Right. So I'm making The Hunt, and this is a great representation of India. I'm making The Hunt where 60%, almost 50 to 60% is in Tamil. And a huge chunk of that is in Sri Lankan Tamil. And I, a Telugu boy, am directing Malayali actors. The bulk of my actors were all Malayali in The Hunt, playing the LTT people. And I'm directing them in Tamil and Sri Lankan Tamil, which I don't, I mean, if I'm struggling to understand Tamil on the set, Sri Lankan Tamil is just like, whew, just bouncing by me. The kind of effort it took to direct each scene, something that I could have done so very easily as a director if it was in a language I knew well, like Telugu, English, or Hindi. Never making that mistake again. Never having that arrogance of, give me a thing, I'll do it. Just sticking to my lane. I know this language well. I know what I can make the actors do. Staying there. Never doing this.
However, I have to say that The Hunt is one of the best things I've seen recently, and I'm sure that a lot of people here will agree. So maybe it was difficult for you to do, but it was so convincing. I mean, I loved the way you portrayed even Mr. Karthikeyan. Just amazing. You know, it was so real. It was like literally watching those people come alive in, you know, in your series.
And I will add this, what I'm proud of about The Hunt. See, sometimes you take these leaps of faith, which you constantly do with anything creative, so it's not unique in that sense. But right at the outset, I had two ways to go with it. One was because by the time I got to The Hunt, enough OTT stuff had arrived which pitched Indian cops, Indian army people as this really cool, you know, like, you know, yeah, I mean, the camera is moving dramatically, and for a moment I was tempted. I was like, maybe I'll, you know, put the bloody camera on a steady cam and just run with the film, right? So I debated that long and hard. And one of the most beautiful things about the SIT, the Special Investigation Team that worked on the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, was the fact that low tech is how they solved everything, right? In a country like India, where the skin is not any different from the Tamilians who had come over to get. Yeah. So, and these guys, when finally what sold me on the approach was when you look at any picture regarding the investigation, they're the most obscure people. And that was the kind of, I thought, in my opinion, because I enjoy, one of the Indian traits that I've always enjoyed is that sense of humility that we've had. Yeah. The confidence was never lacking, but there was no reason to overtly keep pounding your chest and, you know, standing out there. So you see the SIT team, they're just quietly standing with their arms crossed behind their back. Someone's got, you know, and these people led the largest manhunt in Indian history, quietly going about their business. So that, those pictures that I saw, I said, okay, I'm going to approach it like that. Like the camera just stays there and camera doesn't move much. And these people are going to talk like normal people, just doing their stuff. So I didn't give in to the dramatic.
No, and definitely I think it at least the way I feel about the SIT and the way I feel about cops in general changed after I saw the way you had made, you know, this. And I want to open up for questions from the audience, but I have to ask you this one last question about Madhuri Dixit in Mrs. Deshpande.
I knew it was coming. I was like,
I have to ask you, because she herself says that it was a very layered character that she had to enact. You know, should the police trust her or not? And just her silence and that eerie smile, I mean, a very scary smile that she gives. So does long-form storytelling actually allow you to explore characters and systems in ways that films did not?
100%. As a matter of fact, before streaming came to India, before the OTT platforms came to India, I on every visit to the US would go pitch myself as a director for hire for the long series format. And I kept doing it because I so badly wanted to explore the space, because I've been a huge fan of HBO since the time I first went to the US in '88. These people had cracked the long format, the long form. The obvious ones I'm going to say, Sopranos and Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But exploring characters aram se, with the luxury of time, which most of us who want to get a film into the theaters are denied. So I was waiting for streaming to come here. So I just love, I would not, for 7 years I've stayed in the streaming space. I made only one film in between. It's all been show back to back to back. I wouldn't do that if I didn't enjoy this medium so much. Plus, there is this other thing which I must confess, because for filmmakers, there's this whole Friday fear. Y'all know what Friday fear is, right? Films release on Friday.
Released on Fridays, yeah.
So all the bravado that we have initially, the conviction and everything, as that dreaded Friday approaches, goes out the window. And suddenly every god manifests itself, and people are conducting pilgrimages and havans are happening and everything else. And that fear went out with the OTT space. You make something, you release it, and you don't have to listen to critics. Yeah. How about that? It was like 7 years of just joy.
So we can look forward to more.
I hope so.
Yeah. Any quick questions, please? I'm so sorry, but may I also just let you know that Nagesh is available here, captive audience, and he's like a prisoner till tomorrow. Yeah. So he will be around somewhere before, the elusive Mr. Kukunoor disappears somewhere. Catch him and you can ask him questions outside too. Yeah. Okay.
Nagesh garu, నాకు ఒక చిన్న క్వశ్చన్ ఉంది.
అడగండి.
You are from Telugu and you work in what is primarily considered the film identity of India. But now there are so many films coming from other languages, specifically Malayalam and like Marathi and all of that. Which is the industry that you are most excited about as the additional, say, an extra face of Indian cinema?
I had always said this, that the best, most innovative films came from the Malayalis. The best balance of commercial and intelligent cinema came from the Tamils. And the kick-ass commercial cinema came from the Telugus. So let's just lay it out there. So each has its own space. And again, thanks to streaming, the world's become a really small place. All of a sudden, Hindi audiences are watching dubbed Malayali films. The bulk of the discussion in my office amongst all the young ADs, virtually every time, about 3 or 4 years ago, it was, have you seen that Korean film? Have you seen this Korean film? 90% of the discussion now is, have you seen that Malayali film? Have you seen? So I'm 100, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm excited about every kind of cinema. Wherever cinema happens. I'm excited about the hardcore commercial films, because without them, there'd be no industry. Huh? Make no mistake. My heart completely bleeds for independent cinema. But that's because that's the kind of cinema I believe in. But if the commercial cinema wasn't there to create so many amazing cinematographers, everyone up and down the food chain, and keep them employed, storytellers like me wouldn't have a chance in hell. So everyone has their space, everyone do your own thing. And the beauty is you guys get to pick what you want to watch. You don't want something today, so it's just one flick. But earlier you could say, "Aaj ye theater ko nahi jate hain, wahan jate hain." So it was as simple as that. So everyone survives, everyone wins.
Thank you.
नमस्कार.
हाँ.
मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि एक लेखक जो है वो 500 रुपये में 300 रुपये के कागज़ और 200 रुपये की पेन लेकर के एक कहानी लिख लेता है, एक फिल्म लिख लेता है.
Correct.
लेकिन जब वो फिल्म बनने जाती है तो करोड़ों में पहुंचती है। तो मेरा प्रश्न एज अ राइटर डायरेक्टर आपसे ये था कि वो जो 500 रुपये में हमने कहानी लिखी है, वहाँ पे हम ब्रह्मा हैं, रचयिता हैं, लेकिन जब वो कमर्शियल लेवल पे जाती है और वहाँ पे बहुत सारा पैसा और टाइम इन्वॉल्वमेंट होता है, तो एज अ राइटर आप अपने आप को कितना नर्वस उस सिस्टम में पाते हैं?
See, I have the luxury of being both writer and director. तो मैं कहानी लिखता हूँ, भले ही 500 में या 50 लाख में, वो अपनी जगह, फिर मैं डायरेक्टर बन जाता हूँ। प्रॉब्लम होता है जब कोई और कहानी लेके आता है एंड पीपल कंप्लीटली साइडलाइन द राइटर. I have had the biggest problem with that. And thanks to people like Javed Saab who fought for the lyricists, I hope for the writers we have the billing. Hollywood ने ये negotiate करके before the producer, the written by, you know, you get that credit. I hope we can do the same in India as well, because the writers are completely sidelined in India, and it's 100% wrong. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Yeah, Sherwood, you get the last question.
One last question from the show audience, please.
Sir, you had said that if someone doesn't like your film and all you can say to them is, I'm sorry that you didn't like it, and that they should keep their comments to themselves. But writing personally also, I wanted to ask you, how do you cope with that? Personally, I have faced a lot of times people don't like my writing or people don't like something I've written. And that will end up discouraging me, no matter how much I tell myself that, no, it's okay, it is part of my writing. It does have an effect on you. How do you overcome that?
So, the answer is you have to ask yourself this as to why you're writing, right? If the writing is for others to like your writing, then I would say revisit that a little bit. Because I think in any art form, the starting point should be that you want to write for yourself because you enjoy that. Having said that, you need for others to patronize it. Otherwise, you can write 100 books and, you know, stack them up on your shelf and think you're the greatest writer and leave it at that. And same way, I can make my films and, you know, no one watches them. So we do need others to enjoy it. But I'm telling you, make the first part of it that you love what you're doing. Now, would my answer have been different if Hyderabad Blues would have flopped? That's a question I won't have to answer, luckily. Because when Hyderabad Blues worked, I said, so what I do, people do like. And I've never turned back from that point. So I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but I'll tell you this much, that just the success of Hyderabad Blues gave me the confidence that as long as my journey is personal, it is for myself, then it will find an audience. Because if I start worrying about the audience while I'm doing what I do, it's going to be a big kachumbar. So don't ever make that the starting point.
Thank you so much, and I'm so sorry that we can't take more questions, but you can catch him off stage. Thank you. Thanks, Nagesh.
All
That
right.
was wonderful.
My
I wish we
pleasure.
could speak to you for longer. But we have to close now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such an enriching and insightful session. May I request our lovely audience to please give them a huge round of applause. As a gesture of our appreciation, may I now request Geetanjali and Kavita to join us on stage to felicitate our speakers.
Oh, thank you.